Welcome to another episode of the Drift Car Build-Off presented by SPEC Clutch and Coil Rad.
It's finally time to take Zed the 350Z for a rip, but before we do, we've got a little bit of tidying up to do under the hood. If you've been following along with us on this build, then you'll know that we've swapped in a different VQ, one without rod knock. And that means we need to do a few things before it's really ready to run, and that is bleed the coolant and bleed the power steering. Having driven it 5 feet over here, we realized the power steering was not doing anything, and that's because the system needs to be bled. Other than that, I think we need to just take it over to NV Auto for a quick alignment to make sure it goes down the road straight, and then we can go for a proper rip. Bleeding coolant from these motors is known to be a bit of a nightmare, so we're going to jack the nose up nice and high in the air to try to create the neck on the rad as the highest point in the system, and that should allow air bubbles to travel up and out through there. We're going to start off by bleeding the power steering fluid system, and for that we're just going to turn the wheel left and right and move fluid through the system, and in the process hopefully it'll draw what's in the reservoir down in the system. I can top it up with our Redline D4 ATF. This seems to be the fluid of choice amongst the 350Z crowd on the forums. I went old school and consulted the forums. They said this is what you need for drifting, bro.
All right, DP, fire this thing up.
All right.
Oh, you can hear it. It's making some noise. It's sucking it dry. Oh, it already sucked it all dry, DP. Hold on, I'll have to top it up. Let me chop this up without making a mess. Oh yeah. There it goes. Yeah, turn those wheels. Turn those wheels. There we go. Does it feel like it's working?
Yeah, it feels like it's working much better.
Sweet.
Still a little heavy, but it's definitely working better than it was before.
All right.
Everybody knows you can learn everything you need to learn on YouTube, and we learned this setup by looking at a YouTube video of a hillbilly mechanic trying to bleed coolant out of a G35. But that's pretty brilliant. He hung the overflow bottle up here to make this the high point in the system, and we've connected it with a cap that's I think used for like a pressure tester.
Yeah.
So we think now this is giving us a high point that's well above the motor, and it should encourage air to work its way up into here. So if we start to see some bubbles happening up in here, we know that this rather ghetto setup is working. I mean, the more traditional method would just be have like an overflow or a funnel set up on the neck here with some coolant in it, and it allows expansion and water to come up that way.
But we broke ours. I broke it.
We did break it, so we'll see if this works. YouTube told us it works, and YouTube's never wrong, right? So yeah, we're gonna let it run, get the thermostat to open, and in the meantime I'm gonna fiddle around with putting the street driver's seat back in, because we're gonna need that to get the car registered. And Pete's gonna adjust the parking brake and maybe the clutch pedal.
Yeah, the clutch pedal's a little low, right?
Things to do while the VQ fixes itself.
We're here at NV Auto, and DP pulling the Z onto the alignment rack here. Oh, look at that. The ramps look like a champ. Listen to how smooth this car is running. Yes, yes. There we go. Oh. There you go.
Hey, we're here for Riley to drop some drift knowledge on us for our 350Z. He's the driver for NV Auto's Pro 2 car, which is now potentially a Pro 1 car. You got your Pro 1 license this year.
Yeah, we just got my license this season, so
that's exciting.
We'll see what next season brings.
Yes, we hear rumors of maybe doing a Pro 1 event or two, so we might have to go to that, PT, but let's get down to alignment nitty-gritty. Yes. We are not drifters. We need to learn about drift alignments. I've read on the internet what to do, but I want to hear it from a proper pro. What do we do with this car to make it work well for drifting?
I mean, it's going to be different, obviously, for every chassis, depending on kind of how the suspension geometry is, how everything behaves.
Sure.
How, you know, there's a million
variables
that go into it.
Just sprinkle your magic sauce and make it drift.
A general rule of thumb, I like toe out in the front
Okay.
to help with kind of turn-in response, toe-in in the rear, not excessive toe-in in the rear, but a little bit of toe-in in the rear will help forward drive and kind of push the car out of a corner.
Okay.
Typically, very little rear camber, depending on how the camber curve is on the car.
Yeah.
Depending how fast it gains camber through the travel, and a good amount of front camber. So when you're steered, like counter steering way over in the steering lock, the tire's nice and flat
Okay.
on the outer edge.
So that's why you want. Okay.
Especially on a max strut car, they'll gain a lot of camber.
It's not a max
No, I know. But
Oh, okay.
that's why it really does depend on the chassis.
Right.
Certain cars will gain a ton of camber through the steering, where
Right.
a lot of cars won't. So it really depends on the chassis setup.
Okay.
But usually we'll look at the OE specs and then
Right.
just kind of fiddle with everything to make
Okay.
it work really good for
Okay. And right now we are on stock arms. We don't have an angle kit in the car yet.
Yeah.
So there's basically, we want to try to maximize the setup on the stock arms that we can with the stock, eccentric bolts
Yeah,
and all that.
yeah.
We'll see how it works at that point, and then we'll come back and add things as needed to make it better.
Yeah, try it out, see kind of where the shortcomings are on the OE setup, and then figure out where you can improve it to make it better.
Yeah. By the way, he's already got a chirp for us on drift car setup. Doesn't like that Monte Carlo small wheel. Tell us why though.
It's not that I don't like the wheel.
No, this is a legit.
It's a good looking steering wheel.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong.
yeah.
Just for drifting, it's got the little bumps on. You don't want stuff that's going to catch your hands.
See,
It's
I
a
like
little
the
close
bumps for racing, but for drifting, you want
You
to
got to let it go. You
Yeah.
got. You just got to let go.
I'm not
You
used to
gotta
letting
learn
go,
let
everybody. I'm not used to letting it go.
That the spacing to the stocks is a little close. So if
Yes.
you're really like
So maybe
trying to whip
deep dish
a little
wheel.
closer. I like to drive with my arms at
Me too.
about a 48-degree angle.
Yeah,
If you get your protractor
I like
out,
it close
try
too.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get her tight, buddy. Get her tight. So a non-contoured deep dish wheel that gets it closer is
Yeah, if
better
you look
for
in
that
any,
drift life.
I guarantee pretty much any pro level car, you'll see just like a super basic deep dish, smooth, simple, so you can just whip it around.
All right, Nan, it's looking like we have an awful lot of camber in the rear.
Yeah, you got a little too much camber in the rear for a drift setup. We like to run close to either zero or a little bit positive. But on this car right now, you only have rear factory control arms and rear factory toe adjustment. So I'm not too sure exactly how much more positive we can achieve in the rear camber.
Yeah.
But in the front here, you got a little bit of negative camber, which is pretty good for a drift car.
Yeah.
It's just on these cars with the factory control arms and factory front suspension, there is no front camber adjustment.
Right.
The caster, you've got a little bit more positive than factory, as well. There's no caster adjustment on the
Right.
stock setup. So unfortunately, in the front camber and the front caster, we got to leave it the way it is
Okay.
with this setup.
Well, it's already looking like we might have to put some arms on this car to get it like really dialed in, but it'll be interesting to see how it works once we get it dialed in as much as we can on the stock stuff, and then we'll go do some skids and see how good or bad it really is.
And then you'll have, then you'll know the difference when you put like a real
Yeah.
kit on there.
Yeah, we'll see what the progression is really like. All right, we'll let you turn some wrenches, and we'll see where we end up.
All right, so now we're gonna adjust the camber arm here, the eccentric for the camber, to see how much positive we can get. And then we're gonna make sure that the toe is still in spec with this adjustment right here. And it looks like with the eccentric, this is already as positive as we get, which we're sitting at about 3.5 degrees. in
Oh,
the
man.
rear, which means there's no more adjustment.
So 3.5 it is on the rear here.
Let's see if we can, hopefully we can achieve the proper toe that we're looking for, which is, yeah. All right, so we're able to get the toe even with the max positive camber in the rear.
Okay.
So unfortunately, on this corner, we are stuck with 3.5 degrees negative camber.
Nan's all about the green. Makes it rain green around here, including on the alignment rack. And wow, we still have a lot of rear camber in this, don't we?
Yeah, unfortunately, that was max positive. I believe we started off with about 3.435, but once we got the toe into the spec that we wanted,
Yeah,
it
picked up more
added
camber.
more negative camber.
Yeah.
And with this side, I was able to adjust it a little bit more positive, but we're still stuck with 2.8, and that's the eccentrics all maxed out as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I've matched the rear toe. The front, like I said before, there's no adjustment. In the caster, you got a little bit more positive caster than stock. Unfortunately, there's no adjustment there neither, and we were able to adjust the front toe where we wanted to. And now the alignment's good, but I don't know how it's going to drift, so we're going to have to see once we get on the track.
Yeah, Riley was telling us that with too much rear camber, the car gets really snappy. It's kind of unforgiving. Well, Riley, I blame you for this. Before we go for a road test in this car, we're going to swap out the steering wheel. We We pirated this out of our EK Civic, the K-Swap Civic. This is a deeper dish style wheel from NRG, which the internet was furious at us about for installing because they said it would break, but this wheel is actually super stiff and strong. NRG told us it's their strongest wheel, and I believe them now because it has no flex in it at all. And the bolt pattern is the same as our Momo, so we're just gonna unbolt the Momo, swap this in here, and as you can see, it will move the wheel closer to me, which I like. And more importantly, it doesn't have these like thumb grooves in this area, which Riley was saying is really not ideal for drifting because you want to be able to like let go of the wheel and catch it without this sort of thing grabbing hold of your thumbs. So, all right, PT, we're rolling.
We are, and man, is it exciting to be driving this car. Holy smokes.
It is, and it drives remarkably well.
It does. It is such a street car again, which is kind of crazy to think. We started off with like a full gutted track car.
Yeah.
And we have made it back into a street car, but this is exactly why we did this. I know some of you people were in the previous video, the comments were, why would you take a stripped out car and kind of put it back to a street car? Well, because we want to be able to drive it. We want it, and when we drive it, we want it to be tolerable. And a lot of the time, that isn't the case when you've got a fully gutted track car.
Yeah, that, and I think we want it to be street legal.
Yeah, of course. I want to enjoy the drive so we can up to the racetrack, right?
Yeah. I mean, we do have a truck and trailer, but we don't want to trailer every car that we own around.
Listen, a truck and trailer is fantastic, but it's a nuisance.
It is.
It always is. You got to load it up. When you can drive a car to the racetrack, it's just you jump in and you go. Oh man, here's our low spec going over railroad tracks.
Yeah.
You got to go real slow.
Just crawling here.
But let's just quickly talk about, we just finished switching the wheel out. What do you think?
I like it a lot, actually. Being deep dish, it's got the wheel closer to me, which I prefer. I actually wouldn't mind it if it was even a little bit closer, but, and I do get Riley's point about the lack of contouring in here, making it easier to like let go of and catch and stuff. So
Gotcha.
I think it does make a lot of sense.
Look at this, DP, and here's another reason why we put this car back together.
We got heat.
We have heat.
And
we have
defrost.
wipers.
Yeah, we got wipers.
If we didn't have any type of air movement right now, this window would fog up very quickly.
Yeah. We've got functioning side view mirrors.
Oh, it's nice.
Got it all, man.
It is nice.
A full-fledged.
And unfortunately, we're not really going to be able to test the acceleration of this vehicle today.
No, it's wet and cold, and we're on a summer tire, so.
And so that's going to be non-existent for today's episode. But I think we'll be able to talk about the suspension. Already gone over a couple bumps. I think it is pretty awesome.
It rides exceptionally well. It really
does.
And the clutch, being a stage 3 clutch, I was kind of worried would be really grabby and maybe chattering off of launches. But as you can see there, I could launch it smoothly and quietly.
Yeah, it seems to work really well.
It doesn't feel that aggressive, so that's a relief. Because I was kind of worried about that maybe making the car a little less enjoyable on the street. I don't know if we have a problem, like we need to bleed it out more, or if Z's just have very heavy steering normally. So maybe you guys who have owned Z's before can tell us if they have like very heavy feeling steering. It's been a few years since I sold my G35, but I don't remember it feeling heavy. In fact, I seem to recall it feeling kind of light. So I'm puzzled why the steering is so heavy in this car. As far as the rest of the car goes, it drives exceptionally well.
The suspension's great.
The suspension is beautiful. The engine feels smooth and powerful.
Yeah.
The transmission is working flawlessly. So the exhaust is quiet.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too quiet. Is that possible?
It is. I think inside the cabin, it's
really
might be pretty
good
quiet.
in here.
It is quiet. Like the one thing I struggle with Z's is the loud exhaust gets really raspy.
Yeah, the straight pipe bros are too loud.
Yeah,
for sure.
just a little bit too loud. So going to a single canister sometimes can, to me, make it a little bit too loud. I really like the system right now for street spec. I think we might want to replace the cats with those straight pipes that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
may liven it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it is just a tad quiet, but on the flip side, you can hear the intake.
You can hear the intake, and we haven't really been able to go wide open throttle yet, so we don't know how aggressive it's going to sound. So maybe we'll find a quiet side street and we can give it a bit of a rip.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I am pretty stoked on Zed, the 350Z here. He drives like a dream. I'm kind of blown away that what was once a gutted drift car is now a less gutted drift car and really a very streetable car. It's really good. The Fortunato 500s are spectacular on these really terrible Hamilton roads.
This car is low right now.
And it is low. And admittedly,
It does scrape.
it does bottom out in a few places, like over the railroad tracks. But as far as like soaking up the bumps, it is really, really good. That's what's next for this car is we're going to get out to Toronto Motorsports Park as soon as we can. It's just going to depend on the weather. Like there is snow in the forecast this weekend, but in the next couple of weeks, we'll probably will get a warm enough day that we can get out there and actually do some drifting. So I don't know if we'll go out on the skid pad or out on the road course, but we'll do something to really shake this car down properly and get a feel for how it's performing as a drift car and to see if we feel like we need more steering angle or if we need to make some changes to the alignment that might necessitate changing out the stock arms for adjustable arms. So lots more to come on Zed, the 350Z. All I can say is I'm so stoked, I'm giving it a thumbs up. And I would encourage you to do the same with that little button down there. And be sure to subscribe if you want to see more of Zed and our E46 M3 Drift build, which is going to be starting very soon. That is a wrap, folks. We will see you on YouTube again soon.